polls. In a new Economist poll of registered voters, Kamala Harris beats Donald Trump within the margin of error, 46% to Trump's 44%. For context, Joe Biden was polling at 40% during his last week in the race. Joining me now is Simon Rosenberg. He is a political strategist and the author of the Hopium Chronicles on Substack. It is great to see you, Simon. I'm a big fan of your analysis.
Thank you.
I would love to talk a little bit about the swing state polling we have, because national polling is obviously one thing, but there's some interesting polling out this week from Bloomberg in the swing states. And there's a strange discrepancy in terms of what's happening in Michigan and what's happening in Pennsylvania. In Michigan, the poll shows Harris beating Trump by 11 points, but losing to Trump by 4 points in Pennsylvania. Obviously, these are different states, but that is a massive sort of swing. What do you think accounts for that? Do you have a theory?
Yeah. I mean, remember, polling is like a sketch. It's not a photograph, right? It's a little sketch into a window in time, and sometimes the polls get it right and sometimes they don't. And so I think what we've seen, there's been a lot of polling this week, and there was a lot of polling last week. And what we saw last week was that Harris kind of caught up and it became an even race. This week, the balance of national polls show her ahead by a little bit. Like things got a little bit better this week than even last week. And in the two battleground polls that were done, in addition to the one you cited, there was a public opinion strategies poll of 5 of the states. And in the two polls combined, she's ahead in at least one of them, in Nevada and Arizona and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. And she's close in Georgia and North Carolina. And so the map has gotten much better for us. The national polling has gotten better. The map's gotten better. And in that Republican poll that was released today, she's ahead in Pennsylvania by 3 points, right? So I think the way to think about it, it's a close competitive election. I think we've got a slight advantage. And then we're likely to pick up more and gain as we pick a VP and go through our convention in the coming weeks. So I would much rather be us than them today.
Yeah, can you talk about that? Because we do have a series of inflection points coming up in the next couple of weeks and a rapidly shrinking calendar. And a lot of people, Trump team says, oh, the honeymoon period may end. The honeymoon period may end in like late September. That's pretty close to the election, Simon.
It may end like in the fall of next year, right? I mean, it's look, we have a lot of momentum right now, and they don't. I mean, we've had a great few weeks, and Trump had one of his ugliest, days of his time on our, as a national candidate yesterday. And we continue to produce positive news, right? We're going to get more remarkable news in just a little bit when we see the president and the vice president with the freed hostages. And, we saw very good economic news. We saw, the border flows are now lower than they've been at any other time during Biden's presidency. Team Biden and Harris continue to have the ability to generate positive stories about us. Trump doesn't have that ability. It's just a relentless set of negative news about him and his terrible VP pick, Vance. And so I think the dynamic of this race has really fundamentally changed into our advantage. And over the next few weeks, we're likely to gain a few points from where we are with a VP pick in our convention and with just the general level of enthusiasm that we're seeing. And one thing that's really important, Alex, I think for you to stay on top of is that we also now are going to have the biggest GOTV and early vote operation that the Democratic Party's ever had. And historically, we believe that strong GOTV operations can give you a point or two on the back end. And so we not only are going to have the VP pick, the convention, but we're going to then have the strongest grassroots operation we've ever seen. And so we're coming into this final stretch really strong with wind at our back, a great candidate who's performing at an extraordinary level, a campaign that's doing really well. And Trump is exhibiting a level of ugliness that's going to make it very hard for them to win this election.
Simon, how much is money a reflection of enthusiasm? The Harris campaign has already raised $200 million in an extraordinarily short amount of time.
Crazy.
Donald Trump raised less, I believe, $139 million in all of July compared to the, I think, 11 days that Vice President Harris has been at the top of the ticket, presumably. What does that mean to you?
It's a huge deal because it's also a lot of money late. I mean, we're running out of time to spend that money, right? And so this kind of infusion makes it's a big deal for the close. But what's also happening, Alex, is that this is happening for candidates all across the country. We're seeing, I've talked to House and Senate candidates across the U.S. in the last few weeks. All of them are seeing an uptick in money, an uptick in volunteers. the Democratic Party is just strong and excited and muscular, and we're playing to win. And so this is an exciting time for our politics, a really ugly time for them. And, we should fingers crossed here as we enter this next stretch of the election.
Simon Rosenberg, thank you for your time. It's great to have you on the program.